we got to the MarTech stack we have today started about like 6 to 7 years ago. So previously we were with a legacy platform. Every process was pretty manual. It took a lot of time to ingest the data that we needed. So as we started to do more personalization, realized we wanted to move away from just an email only channel and we wanted to bring other channels to create that omni-channel experience, we essentially started to look at other platforms to understand what is the ideal marketing stack that we want to create. So in that conversation, what we realized was that our priority was to focus on app first. So for realestate.com.au, the app and the app experience is incredibly important. So we wanted a platform and a vendor that really prioritized and was built natively to support messaging in the app. At the same time, we were looking at cost as well. So as we scale up and we have a larger audience, more event volumes, and a lot of data that is being required to be used, a lot of the vendors base their pricing model on data consumption and also email send volume. So that was a really important aspect that we reviewed. Where we ended up was selecting Braze as our omni-channel platform, which is the core part of the marketing stack that we have today. As we were designing the stack and thinking about how do we ideally set ourselves up for that longer term future and vision as well, what we ended up landing on was that we really wanted a stack that was platform agnostic. So how we set up our architecture, how we set up our pipelines. What we're thinking about is even if we pick this vendor now, we want the ease to be able to select another vendor and to pivot and change relatively easily down the track. So that means not piping in all of your data into one vendor, not making things so difficult to transition and to detach yourself from a specific vendor, and building things in a way that is essentially a plug and play. So everything is more centrally managed within REA so that we can essentially decouple from a vendor and pivot to a new one with relative ease, and definitely more easily than we did previously.
Yeah, I think you have this interesting choice as a business as whether you buy into all of system tech stack where one vendor provides you all of the capability, or as Jane mentioned, you go a more of a best of breed or best of feature type approach, being composable, which gives you that nimbleness to adapt as you need to different requirements in the business.
As a business, as we were planning out what does this future MarTech stack look like and what we want to achieve from it, what we landed on is that we didn't just want like marketing channels and have that separate to product channels or media channels. What we wanted was more centralization so that we can efficiently create audiences centrally and have those same audiences piped into our product experiences, our marketing channels, and our media channels, which are the channels that we use to sell and generate revenue off of. So if we have that consistency, not only do we have a seamless end-to-end user experience, but it just means more efficiency in terms of what we create and what we can reuse for multiple different parts of the business as well.
Yeah, we also really wanted our capability to be event driven and more real time so that we could start to achieve things like prompting users in the moment as they were doing things within our experiences. So the first part of the puzzle for us was, how do we achieve that app and web event collection? So if a user is completing something that we've defined as high value on site, we get an immediate signal into our tech stack. So the first piece to achieving that was we needed a tag manager, which essentially means a tool that allows us to tag different components of an app or web experience and use the metadata attached to the tagging to deliver real-time events into our downstream platforms. That was the first piece where we chose Telium, the Telium product, specifically Telium IQ. And what we then wanted to do after implementing that across our full experiences was work through how we can combine those types of real-time signals with declared data. So things like you as your account membership, the types of data you declare around yourself as a person, coupled with inferred data, which what we, essentially refer to in our business as predictive models, or things where we're analyzing the different types of behaviors that you're completing, and then using that to predict what type of person are you? Are you a buyer or a renter? What types of preferences do you have around property that you're looking at? We then looked at how we could feed those signals and bring them together into one place so that we could construct them into audiences, or also richer events that had more context than just your on-site actions, which is where our customer data platform comes into play. We also chose Telium, and we used the two different products within that CDP, so Audience Stream and also Event Stream. And they're essentially collectors of data and then routers of that data into different downstream platforms. For us, the most important piece to get first was that marketing channel capability across app and web. So Braze is the omni-channel platform that we selected. And all of those different audience and event signals can now flow into that omni-channel platform and allow us to segment and target campaigns, but also behaviorally trigger things in the moment as a user is interacting with our experiences.
Yeah. So what that looks like, I guess, in reality is if a product team create a new product or feature or experience, they've got principles and guidelines on how they need to tag that up properly, and that's consistent in terms of ensuring that data is captured and then automatically fed through to Telium. In Telium, once we've defined the use case of what kind of lifecycle campaign or experience we want to create, then the team that manages Telium creates that audience or sets up that event to be then fed into Braze for us to use. Once we create that, it's essentially a reusable pattern, i.e., the media team can leverage the same audience or the in-product team can leverage that same audience as well. So that's what we mean when we talk about reusability and effectively the ability for us to scale by following these patterns of efficiency.
Yeah, I guess the final then piece of that puzzle is how we then monitor or report on the success of the things that we're powering through that stack. So two really important pieces are the engagement event feed that comes out of our omnichannel platform. So that's essentially a whole suite of data that allows us to put into our warehouse all of the interaction events that a user is completing. That could be from engagement with a specific message in a specific channel all the way through to those event signals that we're capturing. We can get that into our reporting tools so that we can build more granular or richer reporting for the business to use around success of different initiatives that we're running. But it also feeds back into how we demonstrate to our customer side of the business, so the agents that are promoting their listings on the platform, all the different value and engagement we've driven through the marketing channels to their specific listings.
Yeah. And then if we're thinking full circle in terms of the stack and the data that's fed in, or the campaign engagement data, behavioral data, that is all fed into BigQuery, which is our data warehouse or data lake essentially. In those tables, our AI data science models use that data, and I guess, data is fed in to improve and essentially optimize what audiences and what inferred data we can get off the back of that as well.
Yeah, I think having that kind of centralized place with the CDP has been really valuable to us, especially now as we start to think about more scaling personalization across our in-product experiences as well. And the key to achieving that is to make sure that whichever place the user lands, whether it's an email that drives them into the app or web, or they land immediately into the app and web and then receive a follow-up prompt, that personalization is completely seamless. And having that kind of centralized audience management and creation piece of the stack has really allowed us to achieve that at scale.
At REA, for different vendors, there's different teams and owners who own that relationship with that vendor. So for us, for example, we own the relationship with Braze, our omni-channel platform. With Braze, we have a really close working relationship in that we partner with them and really feed in our ideas and our kind of future strategies, because we want that platform and the products that they create and develop and invest in to work for us. And I think that's been the benefit of working with a vendor that has kind of grown alongside us. So when we onboarded onto Braze, they were relatively new in Australia. They were just building their client base and building their features up. So I think if you've got that really strong relationship with them, you can work with them to help realize your strategic goals and have them invest in the same things that you want to invest in as well.
Yeah, I think there are a newer breed of tech vendors that are entering the market across the last 4 to 5 years who are very different from some of the legacy vendors that we've seen previously. And I think they're much more willing to engage one-to-one with their customers and listen to feedback about the product and bring you in to help test and trial and inform which part of their roadmaps and where they dedicate their effort and resource to innovating the platform, which has been, yeah, really cool to see.
For legacy vendors, like a lot of the ways in which they've grown and they've adapted every time there's new functionality or capability in the market is they focus on acquisition. So they purchase smaller companies, and that's how they essentially build new features in quickly. I think the challenge or the watch out with that is that oftentimes that isn't a seamless integration, or it's a lot of effort to get these pieces to work together when you're starting to, I guess, build a puzzle piece together in terms of a stack. So when you're weighing up what you need as a business, like that might work for you depending on what capability you need and how you need to operate. But for us, a natively built platform that invests in their own features and functionality as opposed to acquiring different companies worked best for us.
Yeah, I think we also mentioned integration is key with a best of breed, more composable type stack. And so for us, it's really about going through that tech selection process and making sure those integration requirements are crystal clear from the get-go, and that we have vendors demonstrate to us how their platforms can integrate with the key pieces of technology that we have from the start. So as we mentioned, I guess we've been on this transformation journey for 4 to 5 years now, but it's really important and we're cognizant that we can't just, this isn't necessarily our end goal. The North Star continues to shift and we need to continuously look to the market and see what types of new vendors and capability are available and how they could be beneficial to our business. One thing that we do internally at REA is maintain a technology radar. So each year, different parts of the business come together to talk about the different tech that we have chosen to either experiment with or adopt or deprecate across the business, which is really great in kind of giving awareness to what options we already have and are using, but also what different types of things could we experiment with and where could they serve a role across the business to accelerate our success.
Yeah. And I think the thing about the marketing technology industry is that it's so rapidly evolving. There's always something new developing or that you can consider purchasing. So you have to keep abreast of that because there might be things that you need to consider to maintain a competitive advantage, but you need to also balance that out with what do you already have? What are you leveraging that
Mm,
you already own and not leveraging effectively? And really weigh up like the question we mentioned before of like, what is your business need? What is the gap you're trying to solve? Because only with that clarity can you consider anything new effectively and understand if it's worth the investment.
yeah, which can be a big challenge to manage as well as doing your day-to-day job. But I guess the way we've kind of approached that is to have part of the team tasked with looking ahead and thinking about what's next for REA, and then bringing that kind of ideation and thought back to the broader group to think about use cases and how we could apply that and demonstrate the need to the business to invest in a different direction.